Sometimes, one encounter turns your whole life upside down. Not with passion or storm, but with silence that speaks louder than any words. This is a story about a woman named Claire, a wife living in the heart of Charleston, where behind historic windows, the reality is far from a fairy tale. One day, someone moves in across the street, a man who doesn't seduce, but reflects. Doesn't demand, but sees. You'll feel the tension, the touches, the thoughts that make your pulse race. And the ending will be nothing like you expect. Now, open your heart. Let's begin. I lived on the third floor of an old townhouse on Whitmore Street, in the heart of Charleston, where every cobblestone seemed to hold a century of stories. The house creaked, the walls breathed, and everything around me felt alive, except me. I was a shadow. A wife. Claire. A woman who did everything right, but hadn't known what she truly wanted in years. My husband and I lived side by side, but not together. He was kind, predictable, polite. Everything that once felt like stability now resembled a slow, quiet poison. I hadn't noticed when I stopped feeling like a woman. I was simply existing. And then, one evening, across the street, in an apartment that had stood empty for nearly a year, a light turned on. New tenants? I barely felt curious. But then I saw him. A man. Tall, reserved, as if sculpted from glass and metal. He stood by the window, smoking. In his hand, an old film camera. And he wasn't looking at the street. He was looking directly at me. I instinctively stepped back, but couldn't look away. There was something unsettling in his presence, as if he already knew who I was. Or, who I used to be. Later that day, on the stairwell as I returned from the market, he stopped me with a simple nod. "Good afternoon," he said in a velvet voice, one that carried the quiet of mountains. "I'm Ethan. Just moved in. Second floor, across from you." He didn't smile. But his eyes, gray-green, like spring water, smiled for him. "Claire," I replied, and without thinking, added, "It's quiet here. Sometimes too quiet." He nodded. "I like silence. It says more than most people do." That night, I couldn't sleep. His words spun in my mind like a forgotten line from a letter once written to myself. The next day, we crossed paths again. I was taking out the trash, and he was returning from a shoot. The camera still hung around his neck. He stopped. "I'm working on a project," he said. "Faces of people who've lost themselves. I could show you, if you're curious." I agreed. Not out of politeness. But because something inside me was already burning. His apartment was nearly empty. The walls were covered in black and white photographs. One showed a woman hiding her face with both hands. Another, the panicked eyes of a teenage boy. And then, I saw her. A woman within stained glass. Standing before a mosaic of color, bare to the shoulders, but with a face full of peace. And that was me. Or the shadow of me. "That's you," Ethan said softly. "But you don't know it yet." I turned to him. "Why do you do this?" He didn't answer right away. Just stepped closer. One step. His breath was warm. He smelled of skin, wind, and dust. Because if I don't show people who they are, they may never remember. And sometimes, that's the difference between life and death. We stood very close. My heart pounded, like it had when I was 17, kissed for the first time in a school hallway. But this wasn't excitement. This was something scarier, a fear of feeling again. A fear of myself. "Claire," he said softly, "when was the last time you lived for yourself?" I didn't answer. Because I couldn't remember. That night, I didn't touch my husband. I stared at the ceiling, thinking that maybe someone had once tried to wake me. And I didn't wake up. And now, maybe it's already too late. Ethan's apartment smelled of dusty wood, coffee, and something else, like old books that had absorbed the secrets of their owners. He didn't invite me in, he simply opened the door, and I walked inside. His silence wasn't awkward. It was warm. Enveloping. There was no attempt to impress. No candles, no curated stacks of books, no essential oils. Everything was raw. Honest. Like him. Dozens of photographs hung on the walls. Not glossy, not retouched. Just truth. An old couple holding hands despite their arthritis. A child staring into the lens with a gaze no adult could ever fake. A young woman clutching her cat in a bomb shelter. "You photograph pain?" I asked. He shrugged. "I photograph what people don't want to see. Or are too afraid to find in themselves." My eyes caught on one photo. A woman sitting on the edge of a sink in a bathroom, shoulders slumped, hair half undone, her eyes heavy with exhaustion, like after a long confession. Her robe had slipped from one shoulder. There was a trace of a smile on her lips. Something pricked deep inside me. "Is she alive?" I asked softly. He stepped closer, now standing beside me. "No. She died a week after this photo." "Suicide." I froze. "I didn't know," he continued. "But I later found a note. She wrote, 'In this photo, I was finally myself. Thank you for reminding me.'" Chills ran down my back. I stared into the eyes of that woman, as if I were seeing myself on another timeline. "I don't want that," I whispered. "To disappear and be remembered only through a photo." Ethan slowly turned to me. There was barely half a step between us. "Then don't disappear," he said gently. "Start breathing. Right now." We sat on an old, worn-out couch. He placed his camera next to him. "I want to photograph you," he said. "Not now. Not posed. Not like a model. Like yourself." "I don't know who I am." "Then it's time you find out." He didn't speak like someone trying to seduce me. Not like a man chasing something. His words were like a key, quietly trying a long-forgotten lock. And suddenly I was scared. What if there was nothing behind that door? "I'm lost," I admitted. "I have no strength left. Everything in my life is right, but none of it is mine." Ethan leaned in slightly, not touching, just close. "Do you want me to just hold you?" I nodded. He embraced me. No pressure. No tension. Just warmth. His chest was solid and warm, and his arms wrapped softly around my back. And in that simple gesture, there was more intimacy than in dozens of nights with my husband. Because he was holding me, not a role. I rested my cheek against his chest, and began to cry. Quietly. No sobs. Just tears. He didn't ask. He just held me and gently stroked my hair, whispering, "Breathe. Live." When I was about to leave, he walked me to the door. His hand touched mine just a second longer than it needed to. I looked into his eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. "This is only the beginning," he replied. I stepped out into the Charleston night, where cobblestones reflected the moonlight. Something had shifted inside me. I walked slowly, as if my entire body was learning to belong to me again. Back home, my husband was already asleep. His face was peaceful. I looked at him and wondered, how had I lived next to him for so long and felt absolutely nothing? Why had no one ever asked, "Do you want to live? To dance? To breathe with your whole chest?" Only Ethan. And I didn't know where it was all going, but I wanted to follow it now. 3 days later, I messaged him first. Just one line. "I want to breathe. Can I come over?" His reply was just as simple. "Waiting." I stood at the door. Everything inside me was trembling, like thin glass right before it cracks. My hand hovered over the doorbell, but Ethan opened the door himself. As if he already knew I'd show up at that exact moment. He wore a black t-shirt and simple gray pants. Barefoot. His hair was still slightly damp. No cologne, just the scent of clean skin and coffee. There was softness in his eyes, like he already knew what I was going to say, but wasn't in a hurry to hear it. "Come in." I stepped inside. The air was thick, warm. On the table, 2 cups. He'd been waiting for me. And again, no words about feelings or desire. Just presence. Just him. Just me. "Did you bring yourself?" he asked. I nodded. And in that one question, there was more than in any confession. We sat across from each other. He watched me, not intensely, not demanding. My body trembled, not from fear, but from permission. I hadn't allowed myself to be alive in a long time. "I'm scared," I whispered. "That this is too much." "Being yourself is always too much," he replied. He reached out, not touching me, just close. I placed my hand in his. He ran his finger along the inside of my palm. Slowly. Not for a goal, just to feel. My chest rose and fell. I was no longer pretending to have come, just to talk. I came to give him something I'd been carrying far too long, and always alone. He leaned closer. His hand brushed my cheek, gently, as if checking whether I'd disappear. And then, the kiss. Not greedy. Not forceful. A kiss full of fear, permission, trembling, pain, and life. I kissed him back. He exhaled deeper, as if waiting for that spark. And then, no more words. He slowly lifted the hem of my dress. Not rushed. Not possessive. I felt his fingers glide along my skin, discovering, not claiming. Every inch of touch felt like I was returning to myself. I wrapped my arms around him. Like I had that first night of silence, but this time, there was no clothing between us. Only skin, breath, dampness, hearts. We lay on the couch, in the dim light. He moved inside me slowly, deeply, like he wasn't trying to take, but to join. In that moment, I stopped being Claire for others. I became Claire for myself. And he felt it. He didn't rush. He lingered with every motion, as if we were being born again with each second. Afterward, we lay in silence. I rested on his chest, his hands stroking my back. This wasn't sex. This was dissolving. Not pleasure, but coming home. His fingers drew circles between my shoulder blades, and for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about my husband. Or tomorrow. Or what was right. "You know tomorrow will be hard," he whispered. "I know," I said. "But tonight." I was myself. He kissed my temple. "And I'll see it in the photograph." I smiled through tears. "Will you forget me?" He shook his head. "I didn't memorize you. I saw you." That night, I didn't go home. I fell asleep on his chest, in an old house with peeling walls, where at dawn, the first light crept in through the cracks. The kind of light you can't touch. Only let inside. Sorry to interrupt you, just for a moment. If you haven't subscribed yet, please take a second to do so. It's completely free, takes just 5 seconds, and it means everything to me and to the growth of this channel. And if this story resonates with you, hit that like button. Thank you, truly, for your support. Now, let's get back to the story. I woke up alone. The room was half dark, faint morning light slipping through the blinds. For a moment, I thought maybe it had all been a dream. That Ethan was just a fragment of imagination, born from my desperate desire to feel alive again. But the sheet, still scented with his body, was real. And so was the emptiness beside me. I got up, wrapped the sheet around me, and walked to the kitchen. The 2 cups were empty. His camera sat quietly on the windowsill. But he was gone. No note. No message. No trace. I returned home around 8. My husband was still asleep. The TV flickered with late-night news reruns. The kitchen smelled like yesterday's coffee and habit. I looked down at my bare feet, at the shirt I had thrown on, Ethan's shirt, instead of a dress. And I felt the wave rise inside me. Not guilt. Not fear. Grief. Because now I knew what it meant to feel real. And what it meant to vanish again. The whole day, I waited. I checked my phone. I stared out the window. I tried to convince myself that maybe he had errands. Maybe his phone had died. Maybe. I had imagined it all again. By the third day, I no longer believed in coincidence. I called him. The number was unavailable. I walked to his apartment. Knocked. No answer. No sounds. No light. Windows closed. Curtains drawn. He was gone. That night, I slept next to my husband again. He rolled toward me, and, as if nothing had changed, said, "You look off. Everything okay?" I looked at him. And I realized, I could tell him everything. Say, yes, I was with someone else. Say, for the first time in years, I felt alive. But I stayed silent. Because this wasn't a confession. It was my secret. Mine. And his. Even if he was gone for good. Just tired, I replied. On the fourth morning, I found a package at my door. Inside, a flash drive, wrapped in a sheet of paper. One line, handwritten. "If you still want the truth." My hands trembled. I locked myself in my studio. Turned on my laptop. The flash drive opened instantly. A video. Ethan sat at a window. The same quiet. No smile. "Claire. I don't know what you're feeling right now. Maybe anger. Maybe hate. But I need you to hear this. I didn't disappear for no reason. I'm sick. Not metaphorically. I have a tumor. Inoperable. I've known for a while. That's why I started capturing stories. Searching. Seeing. I wasn't looking for you. But when you appeared, everything shifted. You're not my salvation. You're not my comfort. You're my reminder. Of who I once was. I left because I didn't want you to become a part of my pain. But now I see, you already are. The only part I'm not ashamed of." He paused. "If you're crying right now, that's good. It means you're still alive. You weren't just a woman to me. You were light. The kind of light you can't touch. Thank you." The video ended. I didn't cry. I just sat there. Staring at the screen. Feeling the scream building inside. I didn't know where he was. If he was even alive. If that was goodbye, or a plea. But I knew one thing. I couldn't go back. I didn't want to. He left. But gave me the one thing I never had. Myself. And now I had to do something with it. I didn't know why I was going there. My feet simply carried me through old Charleston, down cobbled streets, past iron lampposts and signs that felt achingly familiar. It was as if every stone beneath me could hear my heartbeat, or already knew where I needed to be. At dawn, just as the city began to breathe again, I reached the riverbank. There was his path. Ethan once told me that behind the homes and gardens, there was a hidden trail to the water, a place he escaped to when he couldn't breathe among people. And he was there. Standing by the water, in a pale shirt, unbuttoned at the collar, beneath the shade of an apple tree. In his hand, a mug. Maybe coffee. Maybe silence. I didn't know. He heard my steps but didn't turn right away. Only when I came close enough to feel the warmth between us. "I knew you'd find it," he said. I stood there, looking at him. No words. No tears. Only my heart pounding in my chest, as if those 3 days of pain, silence, and loneliness had never happened. Why didn't you tell me right away? He inhaled slowly, like he wanted to stretch out the moment forever. Because I didn't want you to come out of pity. Or fear. Or because time is short. I wanted you to come, just because you wanted to be here. And you thought I wouldn't feel it? He gave a faint smile. I knew you'd feel it. But I was afraid I wouldn't survive it if you left first. I stepped closer. Almost touching. Stood in front of him. He looked into my eyes. In that moment, there was no past between us. Only the present. Bitter, trembling, but alive. I don't care how much time we have, I said. I didn't come for promises. I came because I'm alive. He nodded. And I took his hand and placed it over my heart. Here. It's still beating. We sat by the river. He told me about the clinic in Vienna. About the chances, small but real, though nothing was guaranteed. I'm tired of fighting, he said. But then, you came. And something inside me turned back on. The urge to see. To be. To feel. Then live, I said. He turned to me. Aren't you scared? I squeezed his fingers. I'm terrified. But I'm more afraid of not living again. Of not feeling. Of hiding behind the familiar. I don't want to be someone's shadow anymore. Not even my own. He touched my face. And in that touch, there was no lust, no comfort, only a vow. He kissed me, not hungrily, not quickly, but as if he was memorizing me. Savoring. Breathing me in. And we were together again. There. On the soft grass, beneath rustling leaves, under a sky full of birds. Not in a room. Not on a bed. On the ground. In life. In air. His skin was warm. His breath unsteady. His lips searched for mine with longing. He moved inside me slowly, deeply, as if he knew this moment might be the last. Or the first. And I cried. From pain. From love. From the feeling of a body remembering what it meant to be needed. You're here, he whispered. You're real. Afterward, we lay in silence. Not touching. Just near. For a long time. He finally turned to me and said, I don't know how this ends. But if one day you don't find me, don't wait. I closed my eyes. I won't wait. I'll live. That evening, I went back home. My husband asked where I'd been. By the river, I said. Looking for myself. He didn't understand. And he didn't need to. We'd had our goodbye. Silent. Without blame. And I had Ethan's note folded in my pocket. You are a woman of light. Don't let yourself dim again. And now I knew. Whatever happens next. I wasn't going back. 3 days passed. No calls. No messages. No light in the window across the street. I tried not to lose my mind. I stared at his apartment windows like I could hear him breathing inside. Listened for footsteps on the stairs. Invented random excuses to walk by, check the mail, toss the trash, ask the neighbor something. Nothing. And then I found a box at my door. Simple. Cardboard. Neatly written on the top. For Claire. The final chapter. I took it into my studio. Opened it, heart pounding. Inside, a black and white photo book. On the cover, unguarded. Below it, a leather bracelet. The one with the clasp shaped like an open eye. And inside, a letter. Claire. If you're reading this, it means you've already walked through fire. I don't know where I am now. But I know where you are. You're inside yourself. You're in every piece of glass you'll ever shape. You're in every morning. Every barefoot step on the tile. Every time you meet your eyes in the mirror and don't look away. You were my final frame. The kind you take not for glory, but for truth. Live. Stop convincing yourself to be convenient. Let yourself be alive. And if one day you try to forget, wear the bracelet. It will remember for you. I cried. Not with sobs, but the way someone cries when there's nothing left to prove. I hugged the book. Closed my eyes. For the first time, without fear. A week passed. No sign of Ethan. I had already made peace with it. Not with losing him, but with what he had left behind. My right to myself. I created a stained glass piece. For the first time, not for a client. For me. It was a silhouette of a woman. Barefoot. Hair loose. Standing at the edge of a rooftop. Not falling, just looking up at the sky. And in her eyes, light. I placed it in the front window of my studio. And people stopped. Some took photos. Some just stood in silence. I realized. I was speaking now. Without words. Then one morning, I saw it. A message, written in the corner of the glass. In marker. Small. Almost hidden. You still shine. E. I gasped. Ran out into the street, barefoot, in my robe, no plan, no thought. I circled the block. Checked the coffee shop where he used to go. Looked up at his windows, closed. Searched within myself. And found something that wasn't empty. Hope. He was alive. Or at least. Alive in me. And somehow. That was enough. That evening, I opened the book again. The final page. A color photo. I'm standing by the window. In a dress. Holding a cup. Hair loose. Smiling. Not posing. No makeup. Underneath it. When one looks at it all. I traced the photo with my finger. Thank you, I whispered. For seeing me. Before I ever did. Sometimes, a story isn't a romance. Not passion. Not a perfect ending with a ring. Sometimes, it's just a meeting. One that changes you so deeply. You can never be the same again. Claire didn't change her life. She changed herself. And you? What would you do? If someone like that walked into your life? Would you let them in? Or would you run? Please, share your thoughts in the comments. I truly want to hear from you. I read every message, and I treasure each one deeply. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment. It's just 7 seconds for you. But it means the world to me. And helps me keep telling these stories. Thank you for being with me through this one. And I'll be waiting for you. In the next. Take care of your heart, my dear listener. Until next time.